Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you, grade 9? How are you today, girls? Today, inshallah, we'll take the radiation effects on the human body, and these effects differ in two things: the amount of radiation and the duration or the time of the exposure to the radiation. So we will divide the effects into two groups according to these factors. Number one, the effects that happen due to the exposure to a large dosage or a large amount of radiation but for a short time. And the second group, the effects due to the exposure to small dosage or small amount of radiation but for a long time. The first group now, when the body exposed to a large amount of radiation but for a short time, this lead to damage or destructive of what? Four things: bone marrow, spleen, digestive system, and central nervous system. What is the bone marrow? Bone marrow is responsible for the formation of red blood cells in our bodies. If the bone marrow is affected by large amount of radiation for a short time, what will happen? This cause what? Decrease in the number of red blood cells. And this lead to two things: feeling of being sick. This human will feel sick, and he feels a sore throat, accompanied by what? By three things. Number one, nausea. What is the meaning of nausea? Feeling that you are going to vomit. You know the meaning of vomit? Feeling that you are going to vomit or spill the food out from your body. Vertigo, unable to balance, or feeling of spinning around, so you can't balance your body. Number three, diarrhea. The body's solid waste is more liquid than usual. The body's solid waste is more what, you girls? Liquid than usual. So now this is the first group, exposure to a large amount of radiation for a short time. This leads to damage of bone marrow, spleen, digestive system, and the central nervous system. And the bone marrow is responsible for the formation of red blood cells. And if the bone marrow is affected, what will happen? Decrease in the number of RBCs, and this leads to feeling of being sick and sore throat, which accompanied by nausea, vertigo, and diarrhea. Number two, or the second group, the effects due to the exposure to a small amount of radiation, small dosage of radiation, but for a long time, for months or years. What will happen? Three effects due to what? Exposure to a small amount of radiation for a long time. Physical effects and genetic effects and cellular effects. Number A here, physical effects. They are changes that appear on a living organism or a living being. The changes that appear that we can see on the living organism body from outside. Again, physical means what? The things that appear for us on a living organism due to what? The exposure to the radiation, like skin cancer. Like this now, can you see this? Skin cancer happens due to what? The exposure for small amount of radiation for a long time. Okay, number two, genetic effects. They are the changes in the sex chromosomes composition. The composition change. So this results in what? Abnormal birth. Like this picture here, can you see? These toes, what happened here? This human have how many toes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 toes in his foot due to what? The exposure to a small amount of radiation for a long time. So this is genetic effects, a change in the sex chromosomes composition. Number three, cellular effects. They are changes in the cells composition, which lead to what? Destroying the cells. Like what? If the chemical composition of the hemoglobin changes, it becomes unable to carry oxygen. Hemoglobin is cells in our body. If any chemical composition is changed for this hemoglobin cells, what will happen? These cells will be unable to carry oxygen to each cell in our body. So we have here three effects: physical effects, changes that appear on the living organism; genetic effects, that changes in the sex composition, sex chromosomes composition; and the cellular effects, that changes in the cell composition which destroy the cell. Like here, if the chemical composition of the hemoglobin change, it becomes unable to carry oxygen. Okay, thank you, grade 9. If you can't understand any point, please send me a message.